Picture this: Sunday dinner at your home, the table set with your mother's china, the smell of pot roast filling the air, just as it has for decades. But instead of feeling that warm glow of family togetherness, your shoulders tense as the doorbell rings. Will this be another afternoon of subtle criticism about your retirement choices? Another round of unsolicited advice about your medication? Or perhaps more financial requests that leave you feeling used rather than loved? For many of us in our golden years, family gatherings have become sources of stress rather than joy. After decades of caring for others, we deserve peace in our later years. Yet certain family relationships seem determined to rob us of our tranquility. Did you know that studies show toxic family relationships can actually accelerate cognitive decline in seniors? Or that your blood pressure rises an average of 16 points when you're in the presence of certain difficult relatives? After spending 6 decades building a life, raising children, and weathering life's storms, you've earned the right to protect your mental well-being. You've earned the right to choose who sits at your table. In this video, I'll share the 7 types of relatives that, sadly, may need to be kept at arm's length after 60. I've worked with hundreds of seniors who found renewed joy, improved health, and rediscovered purpose after making these difficult but necessary boundaries. And please watch until the end. The final relative on our list might surprise you, as it's often the one causing the most damage while flying completely under our emotional radar. Relative number 1, the constant critic. The problem begins subtly, those little comments about your appearance, your home, or your choices disguised as helpful suggestions. But at this stage of life, constant criticism chips away at your self-worth and steals the confidence you've spent decades building. Take Eleanor, a vibrant 68-year-old former school teacher I met at a senior center in Vermont. Every Thursday, her son would visit, bringing not just groceries but a barrage of critiques. "Mom, you really should repaint this room. It's so dated." Or, "Why are you still wearing those old-fashioned clothes?" What started as occasional comments evolved into a relentless stream that left Eleanor questioning her judgment and feeling inadequate in her own home. The science is clear on this. When we're regularly exposed to criticism, our bodies release stress hormones like cortisol, which is particularly damaging for older adults. These hormones can compromise your immune system, disrupt sleep patterns, and even contribute to memory issues. Your brain literally cannot function at its best when under the constant stress of anticipating the next criticism. The solution isn't cutting ties completely, but establishing clear boundaries. For Eleanor, this meant a heartfelt conversation with her son, explaining how his comments affected her. "I love your visits," she told him, "but when you criticize my choices, it makes me feel like I'm no longer capable of making decisions." She suggested they focus on sharing stories and enjoying each other's company instead. When criticism comes, try this simple response: "I appreciate your concern, but I'm comfortable with my decision." Then change the subject. You don't need to defend your choices. You've earned the right to live as you see fit. Have you noticed how criticism from family affects you physically? Do you feel your shoulders tense or your stomach knot when certain relatives are about to visit? If you've experienced this tension from a critical relative, type number 1 in the comments. I'd love to know I'm not alone in this experience. Relative number 2, the emotional vampire. These relatives drain your energy with their endless problems, leaving you emotionally exhausted after every interaction. They call with crisis after crisis, yet rarely follow your advice or take steps to improve their situation. Martha, a gentle 74-year-old widow from Ohio, shared her experience with her younger sister. "Every conversation begins with a problem," Martha confided over tea one afternoon. "Her health, her neighbors, her finances. It's always something, and I'm always expected to listen for hours. By the time we hang up, I'm too tired to enjoy my gardening or even call my grandchildren." What Martha experienced is backed by research in emotional psychology. As we age, our emotional resilience, our ability to bounce back from stress, naturally decreases. While younger adults might recover quickly from emotionally draining interactions, seniors often need more time to restore their emotional equilibrium. That's why a 3-hour phone call with a high-drama relative can leave you depleted for days, not just hours. The solution lies in what therapists call time boundaries. For Martha, this meant limiting calls with her sister to 30 minutes, twice a week. She purchased a simple kitchen timer, and when it rang, she gently ended the conversation. "I need to go now, but let's continue this on Thursday." Initially, her sister resisted, but Martha remained firm. To her surprise, having clear time limits actually improved their relationship. Her sister began prioritizing important matters instead of minor complaints. Another effective strategy is the emotional redirect. When your relative launches into their usual litany of problems, try saying, "That sounds difficult. What do you think might help?" This simple question shifts responsibility back to them and discourages the pattern of emotional dumping. Remember, caring for your emotional well-being isn't selfish. It's necessary. Just as flight attendants instruct you to put on your own oxygen mask before helping others, you must protect your emotional energy to be truly present for the people who matter most. Has an emotional vampire been draining your energy lately? Do you find yourself avoiding certain calls because you know you'll feel exhausted afterward? Share a heart emoji in the comments if you've experienced this. We're all in this together, and your story might help someone else recognize this pattern in their own life. If you are still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 1 below to let me know you are here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Relative number 3, the entitled taker. This relative views your retirement savings, home, or time as community property, always available for their needs. They might ask for loans they never repay, expect free childcare on demand, or assume your schedule is perpetually open to accommodate theirs. Howard, a retired postal worker of 67, smiled sadly as he described his relationship with his adult son. "Every month, like clockwork, Jason needs temporary help with rent or car payments. I've dipped into my retirement fund 3 times now. When I mentioned I might sell the lake house to simplify my finances, he was upset because he'd been counting on inheriting it someday." The psychology behind this dynamic often stems from incomplete parent-child separation. Some adult children never fully develop financial independence, especially if parents have always been the safety net. For seniors, this creates a dangerous financial vulnerability. Studies from the National Council on Aging show that financial exploitation and pressure from family members is one of the most common forms of elder abuse, with an estimated $36 billion lost annually. Your solution requires firm financial boundaries. Start with a simple statement like, "I care about you deeply, but I need to protect my financial security for my remaining years." For recurring requests, consider creating a written agreement with repayment terms, or offer alternatives like helping them create a budget or connecting them with financial assistance programs. Howard's approach was particularly effective. He told his son, "I can help you develop financial skills, but I can no longer provide emergency funds." He offered to pay for a financial planning session instead of giving cash directly. Though initially resistant, his son eventually appreciated learning sustainable money management. Remember that your resources, financial and otherwise, are finite. After decades of working and saving, you deserve security and peace. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for adult children is to encourage their independence rather than enabling dependence. Have you found yourself hesitating to check your phone because you're afraid of another financial request? Or do you worry about the impact of financial giving on your own security? If this resonates with your experience, type boundaries in the comments. Your acknowledgement might be the first step toward reclaiming your financial peace of mind. Relative number 4, the persistent underminer. Unlike the obvious critic, this relative works subtly, questioning your decisions and capabilities in ways that make you doubt yourself. They might respond to your travel plans with concerns about your health or suggest you're too old for new endeavors. Claire, an energetic 76-year-old retired nurse, beamed as she told me about signing up for watercolor classes at her local community center. "I've always wanted to paint," she said. When she shared her excitement with her daughter, the response was deflating. "Mom, are you sure that's wise? The classroom is upstairs and your knees have been bothering you. And wouldn't that money be better spent on something practical?" These seemingly concerned comments actually represent a psychological phenomenon called infantilization, treating capable adults as though they're children. Research from gerontologists shows this behavior is particularly damaging to seniors' cognitive health. When repeatedly told you can't or shouldn't, your brain begins to believe it, leading to decreased confidence and even accelerated cognitive decline. The key solution is to recognize undermining for what it is and respond with confident self-advocacy. Claire's response became my favorite example of setting boundaries with grace. "I appreciate your concern, but I've thought this through. My knees are strong enough for stairs, and at this point in my life, joy is extremely practical." Another effective approach is the broken record technique. Simply repeat your decision calmly without defending it. "I've decided to take the painting class." If they persist, "As I said, I've decided to take the painting class." This avoids defensive explanations that underminers use to find new angles of attack. Most importantly, surround yourself with people who champion your continued growth. At 60, 70, or 80 plus, you're not finished becoming. You're simply entering a new phase of possibility. Your wisdom and experience make you more capable, not less, of trying new things. Has someone made you question whether you're too old for something you wanted to do? Did their concern feel more like doubt in your capabilities? Share your experience by typing "still growing" in the comments. Your story might inspire someone else to pursue their own new beginnings, regardless of age. Relative number 5. The guilt tripper. These relatives wield guilt like a weapon, making you feel responsible for their happiness or using past sacrifices to manipulate your choices today. Their arsenal includes heavy sighs, references to "all I've done for you," and subtle implications that you're failing them somehow. Robert, a distinguished 81-year-old retired professor, lowered his voice when describing weekend visits with his daughter's family. "They mean well," he insisted, "but every decision I make seems to disappoint them. When I declined to move in with them after my wife passed, my daughter reminded me how I'd missed her school plays for academic conferences. 30 years later, and she still brings it up." This manipulation technique works because it targets what psychologists call caregiver guilt, a particularly potent emotion for parents and grandparents who have spent decades putting family first. As we age, this vulnerability can increase, especially if we're experiencing natural limitations that prevent us from contributing as we once did. The neurological impact is significant. Guilt triggers stress responses that weaken immune function and can exacerbate conditions like hypertension, arthritis, and heart disease. Your body literally cannot afford the luxury of unnecessary guilt at this stage of life. The solution begins with recognizing that healthy love never uses the past as emotional leverage. Try responding to guilt trips with gentle but firm statements like, "I understand you're disappointed, but that doesn't change what I need right now." For recurring patterns, naming the behavior can be powerful. When you bring up events from decades ago, it feels like you're trying to make me feel guilty rather than understand my current needs. Robert found peace by establishing what he called present tense relationships. When his daughter began referencing old grievances, he would gently say, "I'd like to focus on our relationship today, not revisit the past." Over time, this consistent boundary helped them build a healthier connection based on current realities rather than old wounds. Remember that your worth isn't measured by compliance with others' wishes. After decades of caring for family, you've earned the right to make choices based on your needs without carrying the weight of guilt. Has a family member ever used your past choices to make you feel guilty about your current decisions? Do certain relatives have a special talent for making you feel like you're never doing enough? If you've experienced this manipulation, type "free" in the comments, because acknowledging guilt trips is the first step toward freedom from them. Relative number 6. The boundary ignorer. These relatives act as if your clearly stated limits don't apply to them. They arrive unannounced, share your private information with others, make decisions on your behalf without consultation, or disregard your expressed preferences. Virginia, a composed 72-year-old with a gentle Southern accent, shared her frustration over tea. "My daughter-in-law reorganizes my kitchen cabinets every visit, insisting she's helping. Last month, she donated my collection of teacups, some from my mother, because they were just collecting dust. When I expressed my hurt, she said I should be grateful for her help. This behavior reflects a fundamental misunderstanding about aging." Many people mistakenly equate getting older with diminished autonomy, as if turning 60 somehow revokes your right to control your environment, possessions, and choices. Neuropsychological research shows that maintaining autonomy is critical for cognitive health and emotional well-being in seniors. When boundaries are repeatedly violated, it creates a state of learned helplessness that can accelerate cognitive decline. The solution requires what therapists call boundary reinforcement, clear, consistent consequences when limits are crossed. For Virginia, this meant keeping her front door locked and requiring calls before visits. She also placed a note inside her cabinet doors. Please ask before reorganizing. These arrangements help me find things easily. When boundaries are crossed, respond with a simple three-part statement. When you, specific action, I feel emotion. In the future, I need you to clear expectation. For Virginia, when you rearrange my belongings without asking, I feel disrespected and confused. In the future, I need you to ask before making changes to my home. The most powerful reinforcement comes from consistent consequences. If a relative repeatedly ignores your boundaries, it's reasonable to limit your exposure to them until they can demonstrate respect for your autonomy. This isn't punishment, it's protection. Remember that maintaining boundaries isn't selfish. It's an essential form of self-care. Your home, your schedule, your possessions, and your personal information remain yours to control, regardless of your age. Have you experienced the frustration of repeatedly stating your preferences or limits, only to have them ignored? Has someone in your family made decisions for you for your own good without consulting you? Share your experience by typing "my choice" in the comments. Your story might help others recognize and address this pattern in their own relationships. Relative number 7, the joy thief. Perhaps the most insidious relative on our list. This person simply cannot allow you to enjoy your life without casting shadows on your happiness. When you share good news, they respond with warnings or worst-case scenarios. Your new hobby is expensive, your trip is risky, your new friend is probably after something. Thomas, a vibrant 83-year-old with a passion for ballroom dancing, described his brother's reaction to hearing about Thomas's new dance partner. He immediately asked if I'd updated my will. Thomas chuckled, though the hurt was evident in his eyes. Every new interest I develop becomes a potential disaster in his mind. Sometimes I stop telling him things just to avoid the rain on my parade. What Thomas experienced reflects a psychological pattern called anticipatory negative thinking, a tendency some people have to immediately identify potential problems rather than possibilities. While they often believe they're being helpful, just looking out for you, the impact on seniors can be particularly harmful. Research on longevity and well-being consistently shows that positive emotions and experiences are not just pleasurable, they're medicinal. Joy, excitement, and looking forward to activities literally strengthen your immune system, improve cardiovascular health, and enhance cognitive function. When someone routinely dampens these positive emotions, they're not just stealing your joy, they're potentially shortening your life. The solution involves creating emotional distance without necessarily confronting the behavior directly. Try what psychologists call information dieting, sharing joyful news with this person only after you've had time to fully enjoy it yourself and with more supportive people in your life. Thomas developed what he called his joy protection protocol. He would share news of his dance competitions and new interests with his supportive friends first, fully absorbing their enthusiasm before mentioning anything to his brother. When his brother inevitably responded with concerns, Thomas was prepared with a gentle deflection. I appreciate your concern, but I've thought it through and I'm comfortable with my decision. For chronic joy thieves, consider keeping your interactions focused on neutral topics rather than sharing anything that matters deeply to you. This isn't deception, it's discernment about who deserves access to your vulnerable emotions. Has someone in your life consistently responded to your happiness with warnings, concerns, or outright negativity? Do you find yourself hesitating to share good news with certain relatives because you know they'll find the cloud in every silver lining? If this sounds familiar, type "Joy Keeper" in the comments. Let's acknowledge these patterns together. The first step toward protecting our right to happiness at any age. As we come to the close of our journey together, I want you to take a moment and reflect on the relationships in your life. Think about which of these 7 types might be affecting your peace of mind, perhaps in ways you hadn't fully recognized until today. Remember when our parents or grandparents would tell us, "At my age, life's too short for," and fill in the blank with something they decided was no longer worth their precious time? There was profound wisdom in those words. Wisdom we can now claim for ourselves. After 6 or more decades of nurturing others, solving problems, and often putting family harmony above your own needs, you've earned the right to prioritize your mental well-being. This isn't selfishness, it's self-preservation in the truest sense. And frankly, it's an act of leadership that shows younger generations how to age with dignity and self-respect. The boundaries you set today will shape the quality of your tomorrow. Perhaps you've recognized one relationship that needs more distance, or you've identified patterns you want to address. I encourage you to take that first small step, whether it's a gentle conversation, a limit on visits, or simply a decision about what you will and won't discuss. If you found value in today's discussion, please consider giving this video a thumbs up. It helps others find this information when they need it most. Subscribe to our channel for more wisdom on navigating these golden years with grace and purpose. And most importantly, share your experiences in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what another viewer needs to hear today. Until next time, remember, peace of mind isn't just a luxury after 60, it's a necessity.